Hello, this is Dado, and I'm here again with my co-host and partner, Dottie Walker. And we've again tonight got a special guest, Trace Cooper, joining us again for a discussion that includes a lot of not only conversation around good music, but also something that is tangential to that and something that we can point to. And that is Hall of Fame and the folks that are nominated, folks, the bands, the artists that are nominated for the Hall of Fame this year, 2026. We had an episode 3 or 4 months ago, and we kind of railed against the whole process of how that happened, how certain people got selected and others got left out. We felt like had every right to be there. So we're coming back to that with the 2026 nominees, and we're gonna count on Trace to give us a little bit of an update and some thoughts and opinions, and then, like I said on the agenda, all hell will break loose. I'm sure. But
Hey,
just again, this podcast, it's all about talking about music. And we do it because we enjoy it. We enjoy music. We have a passion for music. And when we come to you in this format, it's only because we have such a passion and to communicate to you our thoughts and throw some things out for suggestion. So please, if you listen to this, hit us up with comments, share if you appreciate. That's the biggest thing that we could ask for, but mostly the comments. Tell us how we can get better. Tell us how we can more hone in on the subjects, the particulars of what you might want to hear. We, we just love music. And so, Toddy, what would you offer as far as anything in the intro?
I mean, I agree with you. If I was going to interject with those, you was requesting people that had comments or whatever. I was going to say, if they disagree with Mike, by all means. If you disagree with me, screw you. Yeah, we don't need your comment. How about that? And if you
Oh,
you
come
disagree
on.
with Mike, I'm good. Yeah.
A little controversy keeps it fun, all right?
But Trace, good to see you again. Looking forward to tonight. This will be interesting.
And I appreciate. I'm very honored that y'all asked me to come back on a second time. I'm just really excited about it, and then let's take off and have some fun.
Yeah. I agree. And just one quick snippet before we move on as we go forward. Next week, or next episode, I should say. What's coming up next? The the
Say it.
women the women of rock and roll.
Yes, sir.
This is something that, man, I love a female rock singer. Just do. And
Who
Todd,
doesn't?
There's something really sexy about it. I mean, there really is.
there's a difference there. Todd, what would you say about what's coming up?
My first, where did it begin, and who did it begin with? Was it Janice? Is that where it started?
So history.
Yeah, and I I know who I think's at the top of that mountain.
Yeah.
I
Don't
will
reveal.
I will withhold till next week. But if you disagree with me there, you're gonna have something to back your damn disagreement up with.
I got a top three as well. I'll put them in the comments at some point so you can share them for that podcast.
There you go. There you go. Yeah, I mean, I'm with you, Trace. There's something, yeah, it's sexy. Yeah, it's more than that. There's just, gosh,
It's attitude.
yeah, I get something different out of that experience. So anyway, we'll leave that till the next episode. Just a teaser here, but what I do want to get into is, I'm sorry, so I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm going to try something here, and it's an attempt to share something that I had my chatbot put together for me, and that was a list of the top 20 albums during that what we call the golden era, 68 to 1983. And my chatbot came back; it did a good job, and it's just a piece of gold that I mined in some way, and I'm going to try my best to share that with you now.
While he's doing that, Todd, and y'all still do a new music segment on your podcast.
Yeah.
So I'm going to drop a name, Dirty Honey. look them up and listen
Oh,
to
love them.
them. Amazing,
Yes.
amazing.
It
Nice
is,
pull because they are great.
yeah, yeah, and so Trace, what you don't know is that uh, me and two of my closest friends, and I don't want to disclose them for liking Dirty Honey, but they played in Huntsville at
Really,
this Sidetracks,
man, I hate I miss it. I hope they come back. All right, let's get on. So
and
I
I was there, and they were there, and people came away going, "Oh, wow!"
yeah,
I didn't expect that, but and they're moving on to bigger, better things.
good for them.
Yeah. So anyway, hope viewability, if that's a word, on this is okay. But again,
Ooh.
asked it to put together top 20 albums and how much time each album spent on in the top 20 from 1968 to 1983. And oh my gosh, yeah, I'm not going to dive too deeply into this tonight, but you can, if you look on the left side, you'll see a list of albums slash artists. On the right side, you'll see a set of durations, a bar that represents the duration that that album was in the top 20. If you look at the top, you'll see summations of, hey, out of this year, what was the album that was number one for the longest or in the top 20 for the longest? It's just an amazing set of information.
Well, the Dr. Zhivago soundtrack, that's something I wouldn't have expected.
You're right, right. And especially when you get into the 68 and 69 part Trace, you start to see a lot of transition between, the Tijuana Brass
Oh,
and
man.
Creedence Clearwater Revival. You realize that, man, there was a lot of stuff happening at the same time that overlapped each other, and we were slowly transitioning into something different. But in the meantime, you got the Carpenters, you got the 15 other bands that are or artists that are in the mix of what you listen to on the radio on a particular day in 1971. This is just an incredible. I'm going to put this up for sale. I'm telling you, man.
Go
This
to 73.
okay.
Yeah.
And
Okay, well,
Dark Side.
Dark Side of the Moon, yeah. Is it on there?
Gotta
yeah,
be.
of course. Yeah, right there, up top row.
Yep. And then Houses of the Holy by Led Zeppelin right behind it.
Nice.
Captain and Me, Doobie Brothers.
Don't Shoot Me, I'm on the piano player by Elton John. Good album.
Right?
Great year. A phenomenal year.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's what I'm saying. When you look at it in this view and you start realizing how much stuff, how much I wish there was a montage of incredible and amazing, because that's what I'm trying to create. But that something that existed that, oh my goodness, we had no idea what we were experiencing at that point in time. And yet, you look back today and you go, oh my damn, it's that was incredible. So
Yeah.
anyway, I'm simply saying, at some point, I want to come back to this and really spend some time on it. But
Man, you got 10 episodes right here. I mean, no kidding.
I'm telling you, Trace, and this is something I kept telling Todd. I was like, man, save this in two places on your
Yeah.
computer, because I don't know if I can recreate it or not. And I've saved it in two places on mine, but it's gold, no doubt. It's gold. So let me see. I just hit stop here. No, maybe. Uh, no. All right. Y'all back?
Well done. That was well done, man.
I
Good job.
applaud.
Thanks, sir.
Yeah.
All right. So, Trace, let's talk about the Hall of Fame, man. I mean, it's all wonderful stuff and it's going well and the right things are being done, right?
In some cases, yes. In some cases, no. Same people are getting snubbed, and I took the liberty of just looking a few of those up and researching the reasoning that the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame had behind snubbing these people. And I'm about to shoot holes in that here in a minute. I do want to reflect a little bit. Like I said, I listened to a good portion of Eddie Trunk's broadcast Monday night. I didn't get to listen to the whole thing.
Hey, Trace,
Yes.
just for the casual listener that might not know who he
Oh,
is.
yeah. Eddie Trunk is a rock and roll journalist. He used to host That Metal Show, and he has two ongoing shows on Sirius XM. Excuse me, satellite radio. And one of the things he does, he promotes good old fashioned, hard rock, sometimes heavy metal, but I mean, he's just a good old rock and roll, fan and promoter. He's usually mostly has positive things to say. He's a big proponent of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame being only that, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So as he has gone on about this, and I've been listening to his broadcast for years, it has been brought up, and and I'll talk about this in a minute. But, well, Eddie, why don't you just start your own? Let's just start your own, and then you'd redefine
your own Hall of Fame.
Yeah, Eddie Trunks. Someone said, "Why don't you just initiate your own and lay down some stricter guidelines?" And he even had someone offer him $50,000 just a donation to get it started, and he said that's generous. But in the research that he's done on it, he said that wouldn't even break the surface, because if you're going to do it and you're going to compete with the existing, you're going to have a museum. And then you're going to have a forum, so when the inductees show up, you've got to pay them to play. You got to pay for the venue. I mean, we're not $50,000 doesn't even pay for the architecture fees for the museum.
Yeah.
And it was nice of this person to offer. Don't get me wrong. And I sure wish there was 40 or 50 other people that could offer that type of money to him to get it started. His thing was, it's pointless arguing with these people. Most of the people that sit on the committee are not musicians. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying you have to be a musician to appreciate rock and roll. Okay. Even before I picked up a guitar for the first time, I knew what I was listening to in this golden era you were just talking about. As I think I said in my last broadcast, I had an older sister. I used to sneak in and get her vinyl out and take it into my room and play. And she had the albums that, several that you just had on your presentation there a while ago. You don't have to be a musician to appreciate rock and roll, but I do think you need to at least have some musicians, or at least a majority of musicians on the committee, to really understand what these artists are doing. All right. I think you ought to have at least a good concept of music theory before you start voting.
I think what you just said is the most polite way that anybody could ever say. If you don't know shit about music, you shouldn't be choosing to in the Hall of Fame.
Trust me, you would not want me performing surgery on you, okay? Because I don't know anything about it. You may want me to have some training in the area beforehand.
Exactly, it's my point. Shit.
So let's talk about the nominees for this. I do agree with a few of these. Okay, I will say they hit the mark in a couple of places, and I'll point these out. Feel free, to disagree or interject. Black Crowes, yes. All right. But I love the Black Crowes. I saw them warm up for Robert Plant in Birmingham a few years ago and was blown away by them. Good sound. Even Jimmy Page teamed up with them at some point and did some work with them. I agree. I totally agree with that. Phil Collins solo. Oh, I'm sorry. Do you have a comment about Black Crowes?
No.
Okay. Phil Collins, yes, the work with Genesis, but then his latter solo work, I really think, it wasn't hard rock. Okay. It's kind of more he's skimming that pop zone, but he did some good stuff. And
his catalog warrants being in.
Right, the catalog. You're right. The catalog definitely warrants being in.
Well, there's the thing. Toddy. I think you just hit it on the head. The fact they did some good stuff doesn't necessarily warrant inclusion in the Hall of Fame. And that they did some stuff that I do think warrants being included.
Sure.
But there's a difference. You don't just do something. Hey, I did a couple of good songs. I'm in the Hall of Fame.
There's some on this list that's going to apply to.
Correct.
If I were given some opportunity and some genie were to say, I'm going to give you either the opportunity to release 10 albums that are
Yep.
okay, or 5 just really kick-ass albums that every cut is going to be good, I'll take the 5 any day.
All day
Sometimes
long.
it's not-
Right.
Sometimes it's not about the quantity, it's the quality, such as Boston.
And yes, Trace, you're exactly right. And that's what I'm pulling on to a certain extent here is, saying, yeah, they did some good stuff. So did a lot of other people. And maybe there were 5 songs by those other people that just take my heart and gosh, take it wherever they want to take it. And there's others that just, yeah, I hear it, but man,
To me, a song needs to either elicit an emotion or a memory or both. And
Yeah.
if I can't pick that up, then to me, the song is hollow. But that's my personal opinion.
I think you would agree.
Yeah. I think spot on. Yeah,
Here's someone else in the nominees that I agree with, Billy Idol.
absolutely.
Not to say him, but the work he did when Steve Stevens
Oh,
was in the
kidding.
band.
Y'all are, wait. Y'all are kidding me, right? Yeah,
No.
Billy
No.
Idol? Oh,
Yes. Look
man,
what
I love me some Way Witty, but I'm telling you, I don't know how he's Hall of Fame material.
well, if we're going to compare him to some of the other inductees, he's light years above it. And I'll get to that in a minute. My
Okay,
reasoning behind
but-
Billy Idol is
but-
the sheer fact that with the work that he did with Steve Stevens,
Yeah.
phenomenal guitarist, phenomenal writer, and phenomenal musician.
But Trace, okay, so we talked about earlier the fact that they did some good stuff. He had some songs that I appreciated, enjoyed, but I don't see him as meeting the full criteria for me, just my criteria, getting into the Hall of Fame.
I'll agree with you. What I'm doing here is, I guess, maybe to be clear, is I'm scanning the list. All right, not the entire genre in rock and roll. If we're just looking at the list.
Don't let me dissuade you. I'm
Well-
simply saying, hey, there's a lot of conversation here to be had.
Someone else that's on here that I agree with, and this will be the last one, is Iron Maiden. All
Should have
right,
been in years ago.
should have been in years ago.
Years ago.
Steve Harris, me being a bass player, I'm going to lean this way, but phenomenal bass player, but he was the key writer behind the band. They had 2 great singers over their career, sold out stadiums, and they're still going strong, and they're still touring, and they're still writing, and they're still producing, and
Peace.
so
And
why
for
is it
no
taking
other
so long?
reason, their lead singer flies their jet when they're touring.
I know. You got
Yep.
to get admire him.
Damn right.
That's Tony,
here's
that's justification in and of itself right there.
Yeah, I'm right. They should have been in years ago.
So here's 2 folks that are on here that, okay, I see their reasoning. And one of them is Luther Vandross. I'm not going to discount the work that man has done at all. Okay. He's a great producer. He's a great musician. I just
Vocalist.
don't understand where this falls under the word rock and roll. Okay. So
It
I'm
doesn't.
not going to criticize him. What I am criticizing is that, once again, if we're going to call this the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, then we
Yeah.
need to stick to rock and roll. Why don't we just call it, change it into the Music Hall of Fame, and then let someone else handle rock and roll?
Oh, Trace, man, are you just gonna say the quiet thing out loud here, man?
No, I'm going to address the big old fat elephant sitting in the room. Okay,
Right.
I'm going to. Now here's the ones that are just irking me about this. Okay, New Edition. And when I read that, I was like, what the hell? I mean, when I read that was literally, I said that out loud. And my wife was like, I was on my phone looking at my phone. She goes, what are you talking about? I started ranting, and I got the eye roll. Shakira, okay?
She's got a nice butt.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
well,
That's part of the.
I mean, I don't know if it warrants inclusion, but you got to give credit where it's due.
but it's there. But unfortunately, we're not talking about the Butt Hall of Fame. Not that there shouldn't be one, okay? So, but anyway, we'll time out that. But her voice is okay, but she doesn't do her own writing, and that's another thing. Is I believe that an artist that goes into this Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, they should be writers as well. If they're buying other people's music, and selling it for them, and once again, this is just my own opinion. I don't think you're a musician unless you can write. If you can't write and produce your own music,
But,
you're just a technical.
so, but Trace, I've got to ask you. Well, from personal standpoint, when you say you've got to write, so I compose instrumental music. I create songs. They don't have lyrics. I don't sing, but they are songs. Does that mean when you say you have to write music, are you saying you have to write lyrics or you have to compose some set of notes that comprise a song?
Write what you're good at. If you're just an instrumentalist and you write, yes, then that qualifies. I mean, look at Dixie Dregs. These guys are thrown down in and 99% of the stuff they put out is instrumental. Pink Floyd could have passed off as an instrumental band if you want to get technical. Their vocals were great, but if you could have pulled a lot of vocals out of their songs and just let the musicians work, and they could have, and they could have.
Point. Yeah.
Yep. So, but then you got other bands like Led Zeppelin. I mean, Led Zeppelin wouldn't be Led Zeppelin without that distinctive voice of Robert Plant. So,
Yeah.
But I'm gonna interject. Pink Floyd would not have been Pink Floyd without the lyrics that Roger Waters wrote.
Well, there's
in the beginning,
the point.
till he got up on those tangents.
I think
the Wall was a
daddy
tangent,
issue.
and it's freaking brilliant.
I think both are true, Toddy. I think
Sure. Oh, I know. Yeah.
you could have it without the lyrics, and just the instrumental aspect of it would have just been mine. And you could add the lyrics, and you could get something also mind blowing, but maybe in a little bit different way.
Well, I agree with Trace, and I'm gonna pull the Country Music Hall of Fame in right here.
Well,
but they induct three people a year. That's it. 3 people. And they have a set criteria that you have to meet or you're not considered. All right. So kudos on that. Now, I would say probably a large percentage of country artists are being fed those songs from writers on staff at Columbia. All these record companies, and that's what they do all day is write songs. And let's try George Strait. Let's try, pick an artist.
Right.
So I do think rock has this niche where most of the great ones, anyway, with the exclusion of Elvis, people did bring him songs. He didn't write shit, but he didn't have to. The great ones wrote their own stuff, both lyrics and the melodies. And for that, that's what makes rock and roll. And I'd be willing to bet you that Shakira, nice butt and all, Mariah Carey.
I'm with you.
That's a what the fuck moment right there. I don't. Yeah, come on now. But they haven't written anything. Well, I mean, I take that back. Mariah Carey did write that Christmas song, and I don't think she ever had to write another one.
She never had to do another thing in her life.
Yeah.
Well, she did have that. Right. Her breakout song was "Vision of Love" back in the '80s, and that was a good slow song. It was a good pop song.
Not a rock song.
It wasn't a rock song. So let's talk about why. If y'all will let me take off of this, I got 4 examples here.
Yeah.
Of reasoning that the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame has given for not inducting Styx, despite their commercial success. Here is their
Trace.
Yes.
Hold on, man. I got to give the audience a little bit of at least fair play notification. Public service announcement. Trace has a little bit of something up his ass about Styx not being in the Hall of Fame. So carry on.
Well, let's talk about why. All right. And try, I'm not the biggest Styx fan in the world. All right. But I know fact. Everybody knows I'm Led Zeppelin and Pink Floyd are my go-to bands. But I love Styx. But they're the only band in rock and roll history to have 3 triple platinum albums back to back. Nobody else has done that. People have had 3, but none of them have done them back to back.
Right.
They've sold 54 million albums, but the Hall of Fame prioritizes critical acclaim and influence over commercial success. And they're saying that Styx had no influence and no commercial success. I'm like, how do you sell 54 million albums and tell me that's not commercial success? I have no idea where their logic is in this.
Or how could there not be some influence?
Exactly. All right.
No,
The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame's.
Well, I'm sitting over here that they favor critical acclaim, and I'm going, and these are the same fuckers that put Madonna in?
Well, the same people that considered Dolly Parton rock and roll and 4th Street. She didn't even want to be.
Yeah, she tried to bail, so you got to give her credit.
right.
But it's a very, how can I put this, screwed up process. End of story.
I'm going
Simply
somewhere.
put.
I'm setting up. I'm going to give 3 positive examples. I'm going to give a negative, and which is going to shoot holes in the 3 previous rationale. First one, like I said, Styx. They're saying that they didn't have enough influence or commercial success. Okay, Boston. Reason for that is they did not have a more extensive catalog. All right, their catalog consisted of 6 albums, 6 commercially successful albums.
Can I ask you a question right there then? All right, because we're talking, they only had 1 album. I see Oasis on this list,
Yeah.
and they had 1 freaking album.
Well, once again, that's why we're going to shoot holes in this.
All right, fire away. Fire away, baby.
Beastie Boys got in before Kiss. They got in before so many other people, and they only had 8 studio albums, only 4 of which only sold over 1 million. And so I don't understand where they're saying that Styx in Boston did not have the commercial success or the catalog where Beastie Boys were put in, I think, almost an entire decade before Kiss. So there's some.
Yeah, Trace. I don't think there's any way that's logical. There used to be a phrase that people used in legal arguments called reasonable person. There's no way a reasonable person could come away saying Styx shouldn't be in and the other bands should.
Kansas, Boston.
There's no argument that makes sense there. I'm sorry. All right. Sorry.
But here's where I'm going to start feel sorry for these guys. At some point, there is a chance they may put them in. Well, half the members are dead. We've lost Brad Delp. He would not be able to enjoy this. But they're putting in other bands when the entire band can come in and enjoy their special night. So, as I talked about last time, there needs to be a sliding scale. All right. And once again, I understand their 20-year rule and so forth. But Shakira, give me a break. I didn't know who she was until I read this list because I just don't follow that type of music.
Yeah.
We can rail on them all day long. So here's what I want to challenge: what would it take to start a totally different Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? What would we name it so it's not ripping off and actually stick to the heart of the matter? What does that look like if we had to paint this imaginary picture of a new Rock and Roll Hall of Fame?
Are you asking for like a real-time response right here?
Yeah, or rhetorically, or we can talk about it. It's up to you.
Can you give me 10 seconds? Meaningful rock and roll. That would be my 10-second response. And that's probably not where I would end up, but meaningful rock and roll would be where I'd start. Because you eliminate so much of what we just talked about, and it would just focus on the things that are meaningful, and that doesn't include Shakira.
So would you think this would concern an area, when that Delta Blues was making that crossover into the Chubby Checker, Fats Domino, when they was making that transition out of the Delta, they always said, blues had a baby and they called it rock and roll. Would you consider that era part of this, what we call classic rock and roll? And
yes,
Okay.
It died. You gotta chime in here. I mean, this is.
But it started with Chuck Berry.
Yeah, I mean, the idea of genres and not genres were a means of commercializing things and saying, hey, if you like this blues thing, you like that blues thing. But
Right.
in reality, it goes back historically to Africa. And you come forward and you get, the blues, and you get the Delta blues, and you get, well, ultimately,
Chicago.
what ends up with rock and roll, there you get to the point where people like Chuck Berry and others created a sound that had a lot of DNA commonality with what came out of Africa and the blues. So you can never get away from appreciation.
So this is what this fantasy new rock Hall of Fame looks like. It starts with that era. Okay.
Right.
It starts with that era because that is, you said, that's where the DNA was created right there. All right.
Mhm.
And then you do have to move in a little bit into the early 60s stuff. You got to bring in the Beatles, you got to bring in the Yardbirds, or that type of, I don't even know what that they called it, the mod sound out of England, whatever you want to call that.
It was the British invasion, and the Who, Zeppelin, and all
Yeah.
those bands are part of a list that me and Todd talk so much about music. Along the way, the idea of, so many bands, Traffic,
Mm-hmm.
John Mayhall.
Cream,
Yeah.
that whole
Derek and the Dominoes.
British invasion stuff. It was good. Yeah, I can't deny that that's good music. But yeah, and that goes back full circle to the whole reason for this podcast, which is, hey, good music. But I'm just saying that there were so many bands that right in that time frame maybe didn't hit my heart the way they should have, but they were no doubt good. And, that's where you got guys like Eric Clapton coming out of, and the Who, and Zeppelin, and yeah.
Well, and everybody you just mentioned all deserve their spot in whatever Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, whether it's Trace's or the one in Cleveland. But now I want to get back on that because I have some questions from a man about some of the current nominees and whether he thinks they deserve to be in or not.
Let's go.
All right. In excess.
I would say yes, but I don't think I just say they're like the other bands who they're kind of I would say jumping in line. A point is, let's go back and let's visit some of these people that have been snubbed over the years. Let's give them their due credit. Then we start bringing in the NXSs and so forth of the world. I did like Michael Hutchence' voice. I thought they had a very unique
He was a
sound,
great frontman.
and I miss him greatly. And whenever one of his songs came on the radio, it's one of those things you could pick it out. Was I the biggest fan in the world? No, I got their greatest hits album, and I was satisfied with it. But they did have their place. They had a lot of commercial success. They were there during the golden days of MTV, so they got a lot of video, visibility. But did they deserve to be there? I would say yes at some future point. All right.
Trace, I'm sorry, Toddy. You just said something that's really interesting to me, and that was bringing up the MTV aspect of this. Yes, there was a period of time where MTV was sort of the driving force in everything music wise. Yeah, it was video, but it was music. Yes, that's where a lot of your exposure came from. And I think it's interesting that we don't talk about the MTV era as a part of the entire.
Well, it crushed albums, so we've discussed that. So
But
there's that.
but still, MTV and the existence. I mean, you think about it, Toddy. Burning down the house. If I had not seen that video,
You wouldn't know who Talking Heads was.
I would never have become a Talking Heads.
See, I heard Take Me to the River in 1979 and was hooked. This was some weird, quirky ass band that was different from anything else out there
Mhm.
and had this ability that I don't give a damn who you are, where you at. When they come on, you're going to go, that head's going to bob, man.
Well,
So
it's funny you should mention that. When I was in Crossfire, we covered "Take Me to the River," and that was actually one of the ones that I sang. I liked it. Had
There
a
we
cool
go.
little, it had a cool little bass line, and it was a lot of fun to play.
Yeah,
And
and
ironically, it is a Reverend Al Green song.
Yep. And I've heard his version too. I got
Yeah.
curious about it one day and looked it up. It's so funny because you get a song like "You Really Got Me" by the Kinks, and a few people knew about it. Van Halen got a hold of it, and suddenly everybody thought it was a Van Halen song because
Right.
it got so much, And I think that's the same with "Take Me to the River" with Talking Heads.
and Dottie. So yeah, Take Me to the River. That literally that was my first.
And Trey
Shit.
said something earlier about a song should evoke an emotion or memory. Every time I hear Take Me to the River, me and John Sansom are in that little yellow Toyota crossing over the railroad tracks on Selma Street doing what we did.
Yep. And but that's I just want to acknowledge that while the MTV video of burning down the house set me on a path I can't
Game changer, no doubt.
explain. Yes, the Take Me to the River was
But
already
get-
set in my heart.
Let me get back on to my Q&A here. 'Cause
Right.
I've been holding these two for all night.
Hey, y'all, we're at 42 minutes, by the way.
Lauryn Hill and Sade. Now, both great R&B singers, but
Agreed.
Lauryn Hill covered what? Roberta Flack, Killing Me Softly, and Sade did Smooth Operator. I know nothing else. I
Well,
think she
Lauryn-
was in Cypress Hill.
But Lauryn Hill, once again, this falls back on somebody who only had 7 or 8 albums,
No,
and even then, I'm sorry. Let's see. Let me find the full discography here. 7 or 8 commercially successful albums. Let me put it that way. As you said, great voice,
yeah, R&B.
But why? I think R&B needs to have. We need to separate these out, or there needs to be some splitting off, fracture, something. Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, because these people are pulling in every genre, and it just needs to be changed to Music Hall of Fame. And let somebody grab rock and roll and take that and build what Eddie Trunk and I and you guys want to do, and
Yeah.
go back and let's just focus on rock and freaking roll here. There's no reason why. I like Sade. She's got I love her voice. She had commercial success, and I can't remember her last name. Her first name is Tamara, but she sang out at Alabama A&M this last fall. I got a chance to talk to her, and they're good friends. And she said she's just a really nice, laid back person. But so I don't want to disparage anybody who's been nominated, but let's go ahead. Let's get a rap / R&B, Hall of Fame together. Let's get a country Hall of Fame. And then if the pop people want to, have their thing, let's kick this Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, change it to the Music Hall of Fame, and
Right.
break it down into genres.
That's a good idea.
And that's where I was going, Trace. It's just
Now,
making
I
music.
will say this. Now, there is one person on this list that I think belongs, and she would also seg into next week, and that's Melissa Etheridge.
Yeah.
I do
She
think she belongs.
Because I was actually going to bring up a while ago, I was going to bring up the crossover question. Because she, her original was, I think, country music. What's that song? What was that song she had? The song she had in the 90s? The only one. The
Yeah.
only, and you had things in Bonnie Raitt as well. Crossover with her songs like Love Letter and so forth. So,
Right.
if they happen to cross over, I think that's something for consideration.
There's Trace, obviously. There's just an incredible amount of opportunity here to say, let's recognize the talent and the types of talent, maybe in the most appropriate ways. And right now, I don't think that's happening. Maybe I don't know. Maybe that'll get better. Maybe we have a voice somehow in making that better. Today, all we can do is kind of highlight the things that we think are right and the things that we think maybe not right, and maybe collect some other folks that feel similarly and would be able to say, I want that in whatever way I can in maybe changing things.
Yeah, and it's funny because Eddie Trunk has got such a loud voice in this world, and he has tried. He's finally given up, but he tried so hard.
That doesn't sound good.
Well, I
He's
mean,
not. Well, he finally
you know,
gave up.
he's seen that he's not going to change these people, these alleged secret committee up
Yeah.
here at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in Cleveland, and he's finally just said, and he said, let's just start our own, and
Well,
that got some talk going on his show on Monday nights.
right.
And someone actually, as I said, came up with the amount of money. But you're not going to be able to do this with $50,000. This is going to be about a $50 million in today's economy, a $50 million project if you're going to do it right. And he said we either do it big or we don't. There's not going to be any halfway zone. This has got to be done
But
big.
that number doesn't sound outrageous. Yeah, I mean, if it was me looking to improve my yard, yeah, that number looks outrageous. But in this context, I don't think it does. I mean, I think $50 million is not something that people would blink at to say, let's make it right. Recognize the bands, the artists that have done the things that shaped our lives. And if we call it something different, okay. And let's not charge them $10,000 part when they show up and
Yeah.
wherever else that they bring to the venue. But let's do something that is more appropriate to the value they brought to our world, to us. And I don't know how to say it any more genuinely.
The thing that just breaks my heart though is when a band finally gets inducted after being snubbed for so many years, and some of the band members have already passed on.
Bad
What
company.
comes to mind is Bad Company. Robbie Stein. We lost Robbie Steinhardt a couple of years ago. Recognize them while they can, enjoy their moment.
Sure,
It's
I agree.
that to me is disheartening for someone to have had that much influence and know they did.
Yeah.
And in lots of cases they were survivors of the industry. Now you
Yeah.
talk about the golden age of 68 to 83 of rock and roll. That was also the golden age of cocaine and drugs, and we lost a lot of good people to, a lot of good artists along the way to addiction as well. So a lot of these guys survived.
Lost
Yeah.
Clint in some ways. Okay, so I'm move off the rails here, Trace, and I'm going to say there are some musicians that should have never quit doing heroin. They just shouldn't have. I mean,
They should have never quit doing what?
heroin. They were just better.
Some were worse. I saw
Aerosmith.
Aerosmith live when their drug haze, and those are some guys that needed to play sober. I've seen them 3 times, and
Oh yeah. Listen, I'm being facetious here.
I know.
And I'm just.
But now, well, I'll say this: I'll take Toys in the Attic over Permanent Vacation any day of the week.
Well,
You
the
see what
Permanent
I'm saying?
Vacation revived their career. It
You
may not be the best.
Did you see what I'm
But-
saying?
But it wasn't as rock and roll as Toys in the Attic. It was more production and good album. Not gonna say it's not, but if I've got to pick between the two, you give me Toys any day, every day.
This
And
is what I love.
Yeah, I'll go with rock.
This discussion is what I love. And this is why I'm so excited about this podcast, because the idea of talking about whether it's Toys in the Attic or whether it's some non heroin influenced Aerosmith song, that's a lot of fun to talk about. And I just love the opportunity to
What I love, one thing I love about rock and roll, and you talked about, and Todd, I think this is a good point you brought up. You talked about Toys in the Attic versus Permanent Vacation. I do enjoy watching an artist sometime, their catalog mature,
Evolve.
notice the peaks and valleys, and evolve.
Mm.
Led Zeppelin's first album was mostly cover tunes or rewrites of old blues numbers.
Yeah.
But by their second album, you can already see them just evolving as just amazing writers.
Right.
And then by the time you get to Presence and In Through the Outdoor, it's
Yeah.
like, man, it's really Led Zeppelin, because this is,
That-
there's a lot of a range of difference in the sounds,
Yeah.
but it's still Led Zeppelin at the same time. And that's the same with Aerosmith. You look at
Sure.
a Wings album or Get Your Wings, it was an okay album, it's worth listening to, but you don't put it on your turntable all the time. But when you brought up Toys in the Attic, and it goes back to my thing a while ago, as soon as you said that, I had a memory of me and my best friend Jack sitting in the room in this townhouse, little townhouse we lived in, flipping that album and laying it on that little stereo I had, and us sneaking in and stealing a beer from the refrigerator from Dad and listening to
There you
that album,
go.
you know,
Absolutely.
and just every cut on it. There's not a bad song on that
No.
album, and that's what rock and roll is about. It's not about writing one hit song and then putting a bunch of fluff around it and then calling yourself a rock and roll artist. You know, when I put on an album, I want to hear the album. I don't want to have to pick up in the old days, pick up the needle, or now you skip to the next track or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, and that's what Dano's point is a golden age of rock and roll from '68 to '83. That's what bands were doing. The album, not the
Okay.
song. The
Now-
album.
What really began to take off in 1983?
Oh, it was MTV. I mean,
There
when did
you
they start
go.
their first video? It was 1981. Was that it?
Yeah.
And the video
But
killed the
that-
radio star.
Whole
Is that where I saw David Byrne with some little dude on his back, strumming a guitar, singing "Burning Down the House"?
well, but those
this-
days of going to your friend's house and putting on an album and playing it start to finish went away. Then
Yeah.
you went to your friend's house, turned
you
on the
watched the
TV and
TV.
watched videos.
Well, you had Hollywood marry the music industry at that time. Is
Sure.
what happened. And you look at the early videos, and to me, the best videos to me were a concert video. You know, just a nice raw concert video. Yeah, they may have still lip
Stop
synced it, but
making
they did-
sense.
Yeah, well, I like that. I might have it. I love that album. But the thing about it is that when they were trying to make concepts and tell stories with the music and everything, and I get what they were trying to do. It moved us out of, once again, of this golden age. Suddenly you had to be, for the most part, a commercial success. There were a few bands that could still get away with doing it their own way at that time. Point in case, Rush. You know, Metallica, basically they said, we don't want it. Their first video was one, and that was on their fourth album. They
Yeah.
cared nothing about making videos, and they finally yielded to pressure. But, you know, there was a few that survived through that doing it their own way. But for the most part, you had to capitulate and be commercial a little more.
Well, at the end of this thing each week, or episode, I guess you'd say, I've been lucky enough to be tasked with the New Music Minute. And that kind of stemmed from me not thinking that there was anything worth the shit out there today. And I was wrong. Yeah. And that's one thing this podcast has made me do is see what is out there. And there's some good stuff. And we've talked about this. You might have to look for it a little bit harder,
That's the
but it
problem.
is
You got to
there.
look for it.
So moving into tonight, what I've noticed is particularly over about the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years, there's been a plethora of white R&B musicians that have come on the scene. St. Paul and the Broken Bones, first one that comes to mind. There's a young guy from actually y'all's way, Decatur, Alabama, Lamont Landers. Dude is phenomenal. But we'll
Well,
talk about them. I'm sorry, Lamont Landers.
Thank you.
And he is one pasty ass white dude, but damn, what a voice. Holy shit. But tonight, in that same genre, there's a band from England called the Vintage Explosion. They're in that Sam Cooke, Otis Redding kind of wheelhouse vibe, whatever you want to call it. Absolutely a vocal powerhouse. The dude's name is Willie Hitchell that sings for him. Play a record by the Vintage Explosion. I've kind of ruined it by telling you it's a white guy because you would never believe that voice is coming from. Yeah, it's incredible.
Wow.
They put out 4 records to this point. The songs, I'm trying to think of the name of the albums. Hang on, I did write a couple of them down. Well, the song title, Sweet Love. And when I first saw it, I thought it was going to be a cover of the Commodores' Sweet Love. It's not. Absolutely a soul classic. So give them a check out. It's just a Vintage Explosion.
Okay.
And I'm all for this influx of white R&B.
Right.
It's reminiscent of the 70s.
We're results of an evolution. We got to, in my mind, the end of the worst period in music history. And I'll just hold that to myself. But I think that we're getting to the point, whether it's that 50-year thing, Todd, that we talk about, Everything 50 years ago is magic, and it's coming back around, whether it's
Absolutely.
tours of bands or whether it's events like launching a rocket to go to the moon. It's just something about that 50-year period. But we are finally getting back to the point where I think music is realizing and being appreciated in ways
Well,
that it hasn't been.
and
And what we were talking about before the podcast, Toddy, I mean, bands like I brought up Dirty Honey and
yeah,
Greta Van Fleet. These are just like Dano said. These bands are reflective of that sound. I mean,
Yep.
if you'd have dropped Dirty Honey or Greta Van Fleet in 1975, I mean, you wouldn't even need a shoehorn to get that to fit. They would have. I mean, they would have exploded on the scene like nobody's business. And I think there is, like Dano said, a lot of people are now starting to really appreciate, hopefully, true musicianship again.
Yeah.
I don't want AI writing my song. I don't want the synthesizer creating. I don't mind having some synth in there, but show me some guy who can pluck some strings and tap some keys and beat some skins and not have a lot of studio effects on it. Just give me the raw sound, and man, that you've got my attention.
And they're
and
go ahead, Tony.
I was gonna say, and then two, give me bands that grow, that evolve, and don't crank out the same stuff album after album. That gets boring. And I think the great ones do evolve, and they realize what I did last time. I don't want to do that again. I want to do something else, and I think that's the artist in them. So,
And I get that. I have, and right behind this wall here is my little studio. I've got in there before and think I'm on a roll. Then I go back and listen to something I wrote a year ago. It's like, heck, I just wrote the same damn song that I wrote, and I have to change my mindset a little bit every once in a while. It's easy to fall into. Point in case, Rat's first two albums were great, but the first album sounded like the second album, then unfortunately the third one came out sounded like the first two, and that's when they kind of dropped off the face of the
Right.
earth. But they had potential. Warren DeMartini's an amazing
great guitar player.
but for some reason the studio execs kept saying no, just give us a Xerox of what you did last time because that worked. Well, I don't care. I don't want to buy the same album. I already bought that album once. Give me something new to listen to.
See, there you go.
So I'm going to claim victory here on one front, and that is clearly the three of us have a great connection together.
Yeah.
The other is, Donnie, we're going to talk new music.
We're done. We
We're
covered the
done.
Vintage Explosion, and check them out.
I thought you had others that you were going to mention based on
No,
that.
I mean, like I said, I ran that, like I said, Lamont Landers and St. Paul and the Broken Bones. But each week I'm just going, one band that I want you to listen to
Mhm.
before we get back together. And this go around the Vintage Explosion,
Duly noted.
and let me know what you think.
I like when it comes to this type of stuff, Spotify is your friend.
Sure, absolutely.
Well, hold on, Trace. I'll be honest with you. So I use Apple Music. I've used both. And algorithm, I guess, is the word of our generation. I find the Apple Music algorithm a little more attuned to my taste.
And I guess I haven't done a side-by-side comparison. The thing I like about Spotify is I go in and I can go in and very easily in just a few minutes. Like the other night, I built a new song list, 200 songs in there. It took me about 10 or 15 minutes. And I was just, and Todd, I'm sure both you and Dan will relate to this. Sometimes you get I was kind of like in an Alan Parsons, Herb Albert type tone. I didn't want to hear some hard rock, so I made me a song
Right.
list
Yeah.
of just that Alan Parsons kind of soft stuff. As you can see, I'm also a professional magician, and I wanted some of that music playing in the background when I'm rehearsing my acts. Shameless plug! I'm at Green Bus Brewing on May 23rd, my magic show. So make sure y'all come out.
There we go. But nice pull on the Alan Parsons, because the Pyramid record and iRobot.
iRobot, yeah. And I'll tell you what, Turn of a Friendly Card was just an amazing album, and Eve.
So,
I'll tell you another one I like is Vulture Culture. Come
Really?
out in 80, yeah. Come out, what, 89, I think?
It's actually one of my least favorites of his, believe it or not. For some reason, it didn't grab me like the others did.
In the interim, Trace, man, I really appreciate your insights, your perspectives. It's great to hear other than me and what I think about music and what I think about good music, a different perspective. And especially when we talk about Hall of Fame, Toddy, man, again, I think it was a great conversation. Appreciate in some cases, describe things in a different way. But I'll open the floor to anybody's opening or closing comment.
I'm with you.
But I would like at some point, and I'll talk. I've got a friend of mine, Brian, who's as passionate about this as I am. If you're interested in having him on one night, or maybe both of us behind the camera, we actually.
Yeah.
Who is it?
His name's Brian Sisk, and we went to high school together. He's one of the people we were sitting in the '70s flipping albums together, and now he's a Rush, type kind of guy, but he's also a musician. He's a keyboard player, but he's the same as me. He's very passionate about the music and what is considered good rock and roll. We actually used to have this little. We both go by our middle name. Our first names are Larry and David, and we used to do this thing when we were at Calhoun College. They were called Larry and Dave's Album Review, and we would sit in the little studios radio school radio station once a week, and the new album would come out, and we'd do Larry and Dave's radio album review
nice.
on the radio. So, even with or without my presence, I'm gonna ask him if he's interested, and I'll let you know, Dan. I think you enjoy his insights as well.
Oh, cool. All right.
And hey, thanks for having me on again.
You're very welcome, man. We enjoyed it.
amazing, and,
Oh,
and
yeah.
I hope there'll be a third one. This has been fun.
I assure you there will be a third one. And again, appreciate it, Trace.
Oh, thank you. Honor's mine.
All right, guys.
Hey,
It's been fun. What? Are we logging off? Or you got something?
all I was going to say was when we hit stop on recording, wait 5-10 seconds before you actually shut down.
That would be the Todd rule, just for the heads up.
There you go.
Awesome.
So what else were you going to say?
I enjoyed it as always. It's good to see somebody that has the same, how can I say, thought process or ideals, especially when it comes to the Hall of Fame. Yeah, what a cluster. Yeah,
Charlie
what a cluster.
Foxtrot. Charlie Foxtrot.
Yeah, exactly. All right, guys, have a good one.
Thanks.
Enjoyed it.